Hello, 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 everybody. It is yours truly, Dr. Shamika Dean. Y'all come on in. Y'all already know that when I come on this live, I have something that needs to be said. Okay. So if you are new to me, I am Dr. Shamika Dean, again, your favorite marketing solutionist. I help service based entrepreneurs expand their expertise through signature program creation. And then I teach them how to create a marketing and automation plan that helps them to, um, that teaches them how to automate 90% of their sales so that they only have to work 10% of the time. All right. So as you're tuning in, do me a quick favor. Make sure that you share, invite others to join us. This is going to be a goodie. I mean, yeah, y'all see the title. So just know it's about to get real. All right. As you're tuning in, do me a quick favor and let me know where you are tuning in from. Hey, Shaquita, how are you? And again, please make sure that you invite others to join us. Um, Let me go ahead and share this broadcast really quickly so that we can get other eyes on it so that, more lives can be impacted because that's what we do. All right. So, yeah, just again, comment, make sure that um, I know where you're tuning in from. And again, make sure that you share and invite others to join and watch this broadcast. So, real quick, the title is what it is, and this is going to be a real one. This is gonna be real, as probably as real as it gets. Uh, Thank you for tuning in from Alabama. But this is going to be about, as real can get today. Hey, Artillis, how are you? What I'm going to be talking about, again, the title of the broadcast is I Forgot Where I Came From. All right. And so this is very open, honest, transparent. It's going to be one of those. So it's also going to give you some wisdom to take with you. All right. So, hey, Jeanette. So I was having one of those come to Jesus moments, I guess you would say. And yesterday, a situation happened with a company, and the company did something, that um, they basically allowed something to slip through the cracks concerning me, right? Concerning a project that I had invested in with them. And so the consumer in me was livid, y'all. I was extremely angry. I contacted a few of my friends. I went through the whole ranting and raving um, situation, and again, I was very, very angry. And I had every right to be because I had paid them for a service and they did not follow through in doing what they were paid to do. However, as I began to sit and I'm going through my angry and anger, and I'm saying all of the things that I want to say, because I'm big and bad enough to say them, right? And so when I said it, um I got a strong conviction because I literally heard God say, you forgot where you came from. Now, mind you, he had told me about this probably about a month ago. He had spoke to me and he said, you forgot where you came from. Now, when of course, when God hits you with the wham bam, thank you, man, you like, wait a minute, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not prideful. I don't, look down my nose at people. I don't judge people, um, in that regards. But here's what he told me. He said, you forgot where you came from because you forgot how it was when you were in those situations, right? And so sometimes we can become so far removed from where we started that we don't realize that we can lose the grace that we're supposed to operate in. So again, let me backtrack a little bit because I realize I just kind of got off topic here. But so I had this experience with this company. They dropped the ball. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. I was angry. I had every right to be. And as I was going on about how angry I was, this frustration, God reminded me, he said, you forgot where you came from. So what I ended up doing, the customer in me was upset and angry, and I could have done all of the things. I could have blasted them on social media. I could have, went on this rampage and did all these other things. But the CEO in me extended grace. And here's why. Because as I was thinking about it, when God told me, he said, you forgot where you came from, he reminded me of, where I was when I started in business, and how even in my best efforts, how I dropped the ball at times, right? And when I finally talked to, the person that I needed to talk to, when I talked to them, they explained to me, yes, they are a growing business, very, very popular, growing business, and have a good brand. I had experience with this company before and things were good, but suddenly things kind of got off track. And that's how my project, another thing that I paid them for, fell through the cracks. And so anyway, they began to explain to me, hey, LaTanya, they began to explain to me that they were going through some transitions within the company, right? So they were growing and trying to scale their business, which is the purpose. When you get in business, you don't get in business to stay where you started, right? You get in business so that you can scale and grow. And so through their growth process, they brought on some new people, but they also terminated some people. And because of that process, some of the things and some of the clients ended up falling through the cracks, and they weren't finding out about some of this stuff until the clients contacted them, or until they finally caught up and reached out to the clients. And so, God reminded me again of, the grace that I needed to extend in that situation, because I understand that scaling sometimes look like scattered pieces. Somebody put that in the comments, scattered pieces. Scaling your business sometimes looks like scattered pieces. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that as you're growing and evolving, when you're building it and you're a one or a two man show in your business, it's easy for you to create a streamlined process that works well for you or the few. But as you begin to scale and you begin to bring on project managers, or you begin to bring on other employees, even that one streamlined system that you had, it could be broken by the people that you're bringing on. Because number one, everyone doesn't learn the same. Number two, although you think that your process is really solid and simple for other people to be able to take and implement and run with, it's not always so. And so sometimes it takes for someone to come in and break what you've built so that you can build something better, right? So I'm saying that again to say that, it's easy on the outside looking in, or once you have grown to a place in your life or in your business, to forget. It's easy to forget where you came from. It's easy to remember the times when you were at that beginning stage of growth and you didn't really know which way to go. You were afraid to make decisions. You were afraid, to grow. But then you decided, you know what, I'm going to face the fears and I'm going to invest and I'm going to hire and bring on teams and try to build this community, only to realize that what you built may not be what you built worked for where you were then. However, as you're growing, it no longer works for where you're going. Does that make sense? And so again, as I said, although I had every right as a client, as a consumer, to be angry because this company dropped the ball, as the CEO who sits in this seat, who's growing, who's being challenged, to evolve, who's being challenged to think from different perspectives and allow other people's genius and greatness to come in and make what God has put in my hands better, right? As a CEO, when I sat in that seat, I had to extend grace, right? And so, because again, as I said initially, when you think you figured this thing out and you're doing better than you've done then you're doing better now than you were when you started, you can forget where you came from and not be willing to extend grace to the people when you know that you needed someone to extend grace to you when you were on your journey of growing, scaling, evolving, right? And I say this all the time, that building a business is not for the faint of heart. It's just like a marriage. A marriage is not for the faint of heart. See, a lot of people see the glitz and the glamour. They see the glory of building the business. They see the 6 and 7 figure salaries of scaling and growing a business. They see that part of it. But what people don't tell you is while you're in this thing, it looks completely different than someone on the outside looking in. So again, the CEO in me say, you know what? Extend them grace. And the reason I was able to extend them grace is because I remembered where I came from. So now I'm not looking down at where they are and at the fact that they have some broken pieces that negatively impacted me. I'm looking at them square in the eye because I'm like, you know what? Matter of fact, I'm looking at them heart to heart. I'm saying, you know what? I understand. I understand where you are. I understand how it is to try to build this business, and you have done everything that you know, you're giving the best that you have, and things still end up broken, right? So I had to extend grace. And then I looked at the fact that when I did speak to them, they didn't blame me, right? A great company, let me tell y'all something, a good CEO, a great company, even if the customer is not always right, but when there is something that you can do to restore and build retention from this relationship that you've developed with the client, you do what you need to do. That is why another thing is that ego cannot be at play when you're building a business. Right? Because they could have said, oh, well, we're building, we have this audience, right? We're growing rapidly, so we don't care. Let her go, let her be upset. But no, what they did was they took 100% responsibility for dropping the ball. 100% responsibility. Not only that, they worked diligently after their normal business hours to find a resolution. And then the other thing they did was they offered some form of compensation. Let us salvage this relationship. So let me tell you this, if you're building a business, if you're a CEO, if you aspire to be in business, wherever you sit, let me say this: relationships are the real revenue. And although we don't know who that client is on the other side, so if we discard and begin treating people like transactions, and we have no idea who they are, who they're connected to, or any of those things, relationships are the real revenue. And so they did what I would have done in the situation, and they did what a real CEO would do, is let us take responsibility and do what we need to do to salvage this relationship. Because yes, this is one client, but this one client is the reason that is part of the reason that we're still in business. This one client, again, is part of the reason that we are still in business. And so again, you know, God was really showing me that this is why you have to move differently in the industry. Yes, it's popular to say, boom, cut them off, on to the next, but that's not how I built you. That's not how you're going to build your business, because that does not represent me. Okay. Yes, there are things and protocols and practices and procedures that you have in place as a business owner. But let me say this: if you really truly say that you are building a business and you want that business to represent God, then there's no such thing as business is business. So let me check some of that right there, because I used to say the same thing. There's no such thing as business is business if you're going to build your business and you say that your business represents God, or that you're building a kingdom business. Now, that doesn't mean, again, that there shouldn't be boundaries. That doesn't mean that we tolerate businesses and clients, businesses that don't do what they're supposed to do or what we are paying them to do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is that if your heart gets so hardened to where everything that happens and every person that you come in contact is transactional, that's a problem when you say you're building your business based on, when you say you're building a business that represents God, because he don't move like that. He does not move like that. Okay, so let's just get that out there. All right, because again, business is not business when you're doing business God's way. Relationships are the real revenue when you're doing it God's way, because we value people over profit. And we don't treat people like transactions, and we don't treat people like they're disposable or dispensable. We don't treat people like that. And then at the same time, in the same breath, say that we're building a business that glorifies God, because God doesn't move like that. All right, I'm back. Internet was acting crazy. I must have been flowing. Good. I'm back. But again, this was something that God had to really truly check me on, and I'm thankful for this level of conviction where I am now, so that it will carry me to where I'm going. I choose to be different in the industry that I'm in. I choose not to do things, the status quo. I choose to operate differently, so that everything I do, it really truly represents him, and not just represent him when it benefits me. I'm moving differently. Okay. So again, oh my goodness, my internet's tripping. Okay. So again, I wanted to just share this truth, and share what I experienced again just on yesterday, right? And now, as I said earlier, when God told me to talk about how I forgot where I came from, he told me this about 3 weeks ago. It may have been a month ago. He said, "You forgot where you came from." And again, not in a pompous, arrogant way, or a way that diminishes, or diminishes his people, or looks down my nose at people, like in that capacity. But what he was saying to me again was that you have forgotten, you have been in this place of success for so long, that a part of you have forgotten what it was like when you started. Right. And so even when offering prices to clients, right, we have our target audience, we have our ideal clients, and all of those things, and we have the price point for our products. And yes, your price should align with your promise, and I know that my price aligns with my promise, right? But I also remember a time when I couldn't afford a $50 product. So I can't, I have to remember where I came from. When a person comes to me and they say, I would love to invest, but I'm unable to invest right now, sometimes it's not always fear. Sometimes they truly are unable to in that moment. However, if they are assigned and aligned to work with me, then I know that God will make a way for it to happen when it's time for it to happen. Versus I could be looking at it saying, I'm tired of people wasting my time. Don't get on my phone if you don't have any money. Those kind of things. And there was a point in time where I had some language that was very similar to that. And I'm so thankful that God checked me and said, "No, come here. Let me show you something. Let me remind you where you came from. Let me remind you when you were crying your eyes out because your son needed $55 so that he could play sports, play basketball, and you didn't have it. Let me remind you of the time when you had to go into that car and pull the floor mats up and try to find change so that you could go buy a loaf of bread and a bag of rice to feed your family. Let me remind you when you were on government assistance. Let me remind you when you were on food stamps. Let me remind you when you had to go over to family members' houses so that your kids could eat because you didn't have money to put food in your refrigerator. Let me remind you, right? And so I had to be reminded so that I would stay in a posture of humility. Because if we're not careful, we can get pompous and prideful, and we can literally begin to look down our noses at people as if we've never been where they are. Right? Let me remind you when you had ugly flyers, when you couldn't invest in a graphic designer. Let me remind you when you looked like you had fume flyers. Let me remind you when you didn't have good lighting. Let me remind you when you didn't know what marketing was. Let me remind you of where you were so that you'll never forget where you came from. Now, you don't have to stay where you came from. You don't have to go back to where you were, but you need to be reminded that you were not always where you are today. And that is why I wanted to do this, because in the seat I sit in now, I wasn't always in this place. And I don't ever want to forget or get to the point to where I don't extend grace, where I don't extend mercy, where I don't extend opportunities to people simply because I'm in a better position in my life now. Because I have been there when I couldn't afford to get my kids layaway, out of get my kids Christmas gifts and presents out of layaway. I've been in the place where I had to choose between buying my child what they wanted or paying this bill so that they would have what they needed. I've been in that place, right? I've been in that place where I didn't know who I was. I've been in that place where I wasn't confident. I've been in that place where, I didn't have clarity. I've been in all of the places. And so again, I'm so thankful that God reminded me that remember where you came from. Remember where you came from. Right? So again, if you're just tuning in, go back and watch the replay. I'm sharing the story of, a situation that happened where I, as a customer, had a not so good experience with the company, but I, as the CEO, extended them grace. And I extended them grace because God told me that he reminded me of what he told me almost a month ago. You forgot where you came from. And it took a lot, honestly, for me to do this video, because the first thought, and this is me being extremely vulnerable and transparent, the first thought that came to my mind was, people are going to think I look down on people. People are going to think that, I think I'm better than people. What do you mean you forgot where you came from? Right? And I know that that's not the reality, right? The reality is I hadn't been in that place in so long until I needed to learn and I needed to remember that, so that my grace, right? That my grace would not be forfeited, that I would be still in a posture of humility where I extend grace, where most people would say, cut them off, find someone else. Because I also thought about all of the good experiences that I had with this company. Okay. And I thought about personally how would I feel if someone cut me off because I missed the mark, although I've done all of these good things all of the other times. And I try to always move from this perspective that I want to be the type of CEO, the type of company that people want to be a part of. I want to be the type of customer or client that I want to attract, so that, as when I say I want to be the kind of company and CEO that people want to be connected to and be a part of, I'm thinking about the moral compass, the integrity. I'm thinking about the foundational things that I stand on. And I'm also thinking about, okay, I want to make sure that if I have a client and I drop the ball, and I know on the other side, although my client can't see it, may not be able to see the behind the scenes, but on the other side, I'm giving all that I have with what I have, and I'm doing all that I know to do with what I'm able to do, that client would extend me the same grace. So I had to literally take that seat, and God had to deal with me. And when he was dealing with me, I was sharing it with my husband last night. because my husband had taken me out, to eat, because I told him about it, told him what was going on. And he had taken me out to eat, and I was sharing it with him. And I said, God has told me, I said 3 weeks ago to maybe a month, I said, God told me that I needed to do a video saying, I forgot where I came from. And I said, I talked to my marketing manager about it. And I said, now that this situation has happened, God is telling me again that I need to do this video. And I said, there is such an urgency that I can't not do it. Like I can't not do it. Not only can I not do it because I can't afford to be walking in disobedience or out of alignment, but I can't not do it because of who I'm also called to serve. And as someone who's again in the seat of a CEO and someone who's a leader, because CEOs, we are in leadership positions, right? But I need to lead by the way that I live and not by the language, just by the language that I use. Somebody type that in the comments. As a leader, you lead by the life you live, not just by the language that you use, right? And so what I'm saying is walk it like you talk it, pretty much. And short, plain, and simple. I don't know if y'all caught that statement, but if I need to say it again, tell me to say it again. But I understand that I am called to move differently. Lead by the life you live, not just by the language you use. Because there are people who are watching how you're living because they need something to mirror. They need something to guide them. Because there's a saying that says, okay, my internet is tripping. The only thing that they see, the only example that they have is you. And that's the reality. Y'all, my internet of all days, my internet's tripping. Okay, y'all can hear me? Good. But of all days, my internet decides to trip. And that is another reason, that's the evidence why I know that this message is what has to be put out, that this message is what really needs to be heard, that this message is what's going to change lives, change the trajectory of people's lives, that this message is really what people have been seeking for. And this is what's going to actually shift you into what you have actually been praying for. The business, the way that God wants you to set that business up, the way he wants you to flow is going to be different than what it looks like. It may be different from what has been previously popular, but let me tell you something. What's really going to be popular is you operating the way that you're supposed to, and you build it in a way that it truly represents who you say you serve. Okay? So even as I teach you all how to create signature programs, even as I teach you all how to market like a mogul, even as I teach you all, how to throw a book launch, whatever, all the things that I have coming up, as I teach you that, I'm going to teach you what you really need. And I'm going to say what really needs to be said, because there has been a lot of, ways and methods and all of these belief systems that are getting us into the place where we are today. And so some of you thinking or feeling like, oh my God, my business is struggling, and I don't really know why it's struggling. It's struggling because there's a way that he has told you to do it, but you're trying to do it based on what you think is most popular. And let me say this to y'all. I have made more money doing how and what God has told me to do than I did in my own strength and any other strategy that I've ever implemented. Okay. So let me say that I have. And that's why I tell people now my entire business structure shifted, and God told me rest is the new revenue. And when I first started saying it, people thought it was crazy. That doesn't make sense. Yes, it makes sense. It makes sense because the $1 million company that I'm building is going to be based on that foundation. Rest is the new revenue. So when I'm teaching my clients how to make 6-figure launches, it's going to be from that posture. I'm going to show you what it really looks like when you say, I'm going to build this thing the way that God told me to build it. When I'm done with people, they're going to have the courage and the confidence to build their business their way. They're not going to need to follow everyone else's blueprint. Yes, you'll still need strategy. Yes, you'll still need to invest, but you're going to have the confidence to say, you know what? I know it's been taught this way for a long, long time, but God said, this is the way that I'm going to run my business. God says that I can make millions resting. God says that I don't have to sacrifice myself or my health for millions, because he's going to show me how to do it. Because everything that I do, I wanted to glorify him. I want to bring it right back to him. So no, I may not be politically correct all the time. I may not sound corporate. Sometimes I may sound a little bit hood, but it's all good. Because when it's all said and done, I have to do it God's way. I don't want a sprinkle of Jesus. And this is no shot, no shade. I promise I'm not. That's just what came to my mind. But I don't want a sprinkle of Jesus. I want to be saturated so that in everything I do, you'll know that his handprint has been up on it, that it has been leading me, it has been guiding me in, out, through, up, down, all the way around. Excuse me. Because I've seen where the name of God has been sprinkled on strategy just to get people to buy into a product or service. That ain't me. It's not me. And I've always told people, when you work with me, you get this word and this work. All right? Because who I am is who I am. He has always been within me. And I ain't selling you scripture. That's free. Get the Bible, read it. But if I am holding a session and God tells me, you need to say this to her, I'm going to say that to her. If he tells me to tell my client, it is not your strategy, but it is because you don't know how to submit, I'm going to say that. If he tells me to tell my client, you know why your revenue is messed up? Because your marriage is raggedy and you need to get your marriage right first. If he tells me to tell my client, you need to take a break, you need to heal because that's what's hindering your income, I'm going to tell them that. Okay? Excuse me. So I shared all of that to say, let us not forget where we came from. Let us not forget to extend grace even while we're growing our businesses, because in all things, we still represent him. All right. I said all that to say, let us not forget where we came from, that we have what we have because of him. He says that it is he who has given us the ability to obtain wealth. So let us not forget that. Okay. Let us not forget where we came from. We were not always where we are today. We were jacked up as well. We didn't have the business acumen or the expertise or the experience that we have now today. Let us not forget where we came from. I want you all to type that in the comments. I will not forget where I came from. I will not forget where I came from. Let us not forget that we did not always have the money that we have to invest into a brand strategist, a professional website designer, because I forgot. And I'm here to be completely honest. I forgot because I was so far removed from that place that I forgot. And I humbly and openly apologize to anyone if I have ever made you feel inadequate, if I have ever made you feel beneath or not valued. I apologize openly, publicly. If my messaging tore you down, now I'm not going to say that I'm not going to, give you truth. But I am wise enough to know that I have possibly, in some cases, missed the mark somewhere, because if I hadn't, God wouldn't have me doing this video today. And I still have his permission to extract your edges, loosen your lace fronts and lashes, and take back a couple of toupees. I still have permission to do that because that's truth, right? I do not have permission to belittle or to tear down someone's confidence or any of those things. I don't have the permission to do that. And as I said, if I have ever operated in that place or in that posture, then I do publicly acknowledge, accept responsibility, and I apologize if I have ever done that to you. Okay? If I've ever done that. Kalendra laughing. I'm just trying to tell the people, I don't want them to come on here, when I'm on here tomorrow or the day after, and I'm having to extract your edges, and then you mad because you're going to be like, well, I thought you said. I'm letting you know. I'm still going to extract edges, okay? Stepping on toes and stilettos. I'm still going to do that. I do that from a posture of love, though, never to hurt or harm anyone. I do believe in, telling you the truth and really, truly pulling you out of a place of broken belief systems. That I'm going to always do. Exactly. Excuse me, Charles. Exactly. So, again, hey, Kanisha. Again, I wanted to, I literally, I'm not going to tell y'all this video was easy. This was actually very hard for me, to really admit, like, man, I forgot I forgot where I came from. Like, that's hard for me to say that. It was hard for me to say that. But it's necessary for me to say that, because if I'm big, bad, and bold enough, to carelessly do or say or move in a way that is not right, then I need to be as bold and bad to come here and say, you know what? I jacked up. I messed up. Right? And I'm always going to call you higher. That's a part of what I'm created to do. I'm going to call you higher. So yes, I'm going to call out some of your broken belief systems. I'm going to call you into alignment. I'm going to call you up to your potential. I'm going to call you out, call you into your true authenticity. I'm going to call you into a place of courage and boldness. I'm going to call you to charge what you're supposed to be charging and not give away all your stuff for free. I'm going to call you into those things. I'm going to do that because I would do you a disservice if I didn't do that. So I am always going to say, you know what? You over here having to pray for profit because you won't price properly. Like, I'm going to say that because I know how fear presents itself. I'm just going to tell you. Y'all know I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you the truth. So again, let's put this in the comments one more time before I wrap it up. I actually have to prepare for a client, no, for a session with my brand designer in just a second. So that is so true. Kalindra says, when you are operating in truth as you are, it is also revealing truths about ourselves and being comfortable in our own vulnerability, in our vulnerability. This is also part of humility. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want you to comment in the comment section, I will not forget where I came from. And Charles says, you prove why you're trustworthy by your willingness to hold yourself accountable. I honor your vulnerability. Thank you so much. Yeah, vulnerability, you know, this was tough. This one was tough. And I believe that that's why when he told me to do it the first time, pride played a part. I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to be vulnerable. Okay. So I'm just thankful. I'm grateful that you all tuned in. Do me a favor and continue to share this broadcast, invite others to join us. Last but not least, I would love, 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 and y'all hear my heart. I would love for you all to join me and be a part of my book launch on February 26th. As you all know, I published a book called Market Like a Mogul. It went #1 bestseller in new release for marketing and business. And it was not because, it was because I had the support of so many people that said, hey, she's doing something. I want to support her. But I would love for you all to join. There is a registration fee, of course, because we want to feed you and make sure you have a good time and also be able to give you some goodies. Excuse me. So if you have not registered for that, we're only doing a limited people because of COVID. We want to make sure that people are safe. We are requiring that you have a negative COVID test. So you can go to shamikadean.com, go to my website and register there. I'll put the link in the comments, but go to shamikadean.com and secure your spot, your seat. Come and join me. Let me, show you, some appreciation and enjoy and join in on the festivities. And we'll also be making a huge announcement as well at the book launch. So it's going to be in Clarksville, Tennessee, February 26th at 10 o'clock a.m. So again, once the tickets are gone, that's it, because that means that we are reaching the maximum number of people that we're going to allow in the room. And we're wanting to keep it, as intimate as possible. So we did not open up a lot of seats. Because I will have some family there and I want to make room for them as well. But I would love to meet some of you all in person and just be able to, create an experience that will be amazing and memorable for you all. So again, book launch, excuse me, February 26th, Clarksville, Tennessee, 10 o'clock a.m. I'm going to show you all my flyer. It is so cute. Let me show y'all my flyer real quick. My brand designer is Bum. I'm getting ready to meet with him in just a second anyways. But let me show y'all. Is that not gorgeous? Do y'all see that? Y'all see how bomb that is? Is that not gorgeous? I know it is so bomb. He is amazing at what he does. And if you haven't purchased a copy of the book, then definitely make sure that you purchase a copy. If you want an autographed copy, those are only available to be purchased from my personal website, shamikadean.com. If you want the ebook, you can get that from amazon.com. Excuse me. You can also order a physical copy from Amazon, but those will not be autographed. Okay. So again, yeah, he did such an amazing job. I was like, you make me feel famous. Listen, do what you do, kind sir. But yeah, he did such an amazing job with the book launch flyer. And so I'm super excited about this. This is the first book launch that I have that I'm hosting for myself. The very first book that I published, someone did a book launch for me. And that was such a beautiful experience because the lady that did the book launch, and listen, I'm gonna tell y'all this and I'm gonna go, I promise. But the lady that did the book launch for me, she said that I saved her life, which God sent me to a place to find her. She had had an accident and her car had went down into the ravine And it was down in a place where people were just passing by because they didn't see it. However, God had told me to leave to go to church early that Sunday, earlier than I normally would. And I was like, God, I don't have to leave this early. Like, church doesn't start for XYZ. And so he said, no, I need you to leave now. And so I left, and it was such an urgency. This was years ago. It was such an urgency. I left. And as I was driving, he allowed me to see her car. And I saw the car and I started slowing down. I was like, it looks like a car down there. And so as I got ready to pass it, she put her, and I was like, I wonder if someone's in it. That's what I said. And so as I got ready to pass her, she put her hand up on the window. And I was like, oh my God, somebody's in this car. Someone's in this car. And so I got out, I pulled over, and I walked down to the ravine, and she was unconscious. Now, how she put her hand on the car at that moment, I knew it had to be God, because she was actually unconscious in the car. And so I was able to go to her, and, I began to talk to her. I didn't move her because, when someone's had a wreck, you don't know what's broken, whatever. And I just began to talk to her, and I was asking her, if she knew her name. And she was like out of it. Like she was, and then she started to kind of come to and go in and out of consciousness. And I called, 911, and they came. And so when the police and the ambulance and everyone came, they didn't even see the car. So they were like, the only reason they saw her or knew where she was is because I had parked my truck there. And they said that from where I came, there was no way I should have been able to see her car, because it was blocked by trees and it was down in the ravine. It was down in like this ditch, this like drop off. And so they said that there was no way that I should have seen her car, because you cannot see her car from the road. But God allowed me to see that woman's car, and he told me to leave at that exact time, because had I not left at that exact time, I don't know if she would have been found. I don't know if anyone would have saw her. I don't know if she would have been found. But anyhow, God had me to be there. And I said all that to say, I was talking about my book launch. And so I said all that to say that the very first book I didn't do a book launch. She actually did the book launch for me as a token of appreciation, because she said, that I was her guardian angel, that God had used her to save my life, because they told her that if she had stayed in there any longer, she may not have made it. Because they don't know if anyone would have ever saw her down there, because you couldn't see it. And so, the second book that I wrote, I didn't do a book launch for that. I did a 4-city tour. For this one, I want to do my own book launch, because it's something that I've never done. And I was going to do it virtual, but I want to do it in person, because I really want to create an experience for people. So although it's my book launch, I still want to create an experience, for people. I just, like I said, we're going to follow the protocols and things like that, to make sure people are negative for COVID. And, we can practice social distancing and all of those good things. But again, February 26th. So I want to see you there. Make sure that you go to shamikadean.com, and you'll see the option to go to the page to register. And I just hope to see so many of your beautiful faces. I'm going to get off here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I love you immensely and intensely.